Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience because I was a last-minute substitution. And so as such, I am not 100% prepared, but I have taught this any number of times, and I'm going to do my best for you this evening, and look forward to hearing your questions at the end. Feel welcome to type in questions in the chat if you have questions about anything. Hopefully it'll be about the Nudra practice, but still, feel welcome to type in questions in chat as I'm speaking, and then I will pause from time to time in the presentation to read those questions and answer them. So in any case, thanks so much. And we'll start with the prayers. Thank you, Yunten. Thank you for being our host with the most, by the way.
By the way, we do have Chinese translation for anybody that would like that. You can select that from the bottom of the screen.
All right. Since one of our sub-themes is the Dakpo Kagyu lineage prayer, I thought it would be good, even though we are starting a little bit late, we will recite just this prayer this evening to shorten up the beginning a little bit. But then I told Yunten, hold on to it, because we're going to be coming back to it here in a minute. So we'll start with the lineage supplication, asking the masters of the lineage to bless us with their presence. O doje chan chen te lon harodang marpam hi la chu je kampopa dusum she ja kun kien karma pa che ji chun je ju pa tin dang Drita tsao sum pa den tru pa sok sablam cha ja che lang ha nye pe nyam me tro kun da po ka ju la so adip so kaju lamanam jupatin no nam tar jin jilo shen lo gong ki kam par sum pa jen Se nor kun la cha jem he padang Se dir du ta che pe kom chen la kom I lost the page. Yeah, I don't see the next page, and I don't have the prayer memorized. I'm in trouble. Jundu so wa de pegon chen la. So I don't have the next page.
It should be displaying. It says it's displaying.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. 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 Then I'm in trouble.
Ye Kershen pa me pa jin ji lo me ge gong ji go wo sum pa jin men ya te go je pe la ma la yun de so la de pe gong che ma che min me gu ke wa jin ji lo yang me gong ji nye ji sum pa jin gan sha to pe nyo so ma de ma che de ka cho pe kom che ma Kum cha lo dang tra wa jin ji lo nam tok no wo chu ko sum pa jin chi ya ma yin chi ya cha wa la ma ka kro pa cha we kum chen la
Oh,
ko te ye me to pa chen ji lo ke wa kun tu yan da la ma dam dra me chu ki pa la lon chu ching sa dan lam ji yun ten rap so ne do che chang gi ko pan yo top so do che chang gi ko pan yo top so.
okay. Thanks very much for rescuing me, Yunten. It's appreciated. Thank you. Okay, also want to say very good evening to everyone, and thank you very much for coming to our class this evening. The idea behind this set of classes is to explain the purposes of some of the practices of the Karma Kagyu tradition. And as you saw from previous classes, the practice of Mahamudra is quite profound and quite important. And it is central to the lineage that we're part of. If you look at it in one way, we're part of the lineage of the Buddha Shakyamuni, 2,500 or 2,600 years old. The path of enlightenment taught by the Buddha is available, has been continuously available to us in some form for 2,600 years. But also the methods of meditation that help to uncover Buddha nature and give us our own entry into the enlightened state. These are available to us because of the work of all of the great masters of our lineage, going all the way back to the great Indian saint Tilopa, 1,000 years ago, who upon achieving his enlightenment 1,000 years ago in India, had a vision of the Buddha, who was able to give very concise instructions on how to attain Buddhahood quickly. And so these teachings that the Buddha Shakyamuni, in the form of Buddha Vajradhara, gave to Tilopa in that situation, in that time, those teachings have been handed down from teacher to disciple in an unbroken line for 1,000 years. And so the same teachings that we can receive today were the teachings that brought about goodness and enlightenment for generations upon generations of practitioners. And I know that you had a chance to hear Lama Karma talk a little bit about the history of the Karma Kagyu lineage supplication that we recite at the beginning of our practices. And this Karma Kagyu lineage supplication, written by Pengar Jampa Zampo, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, is a way of concisely stating the path of Mahamudra in just a few stanzas. And so what I'd like to do is recap briefly what we know and understand about the topic of Mahamudra based on the prayer. So Yunten, if you wouldn't mind putting the opening lines of the prayer up for me, and then I'll have you advance the slides one by one. Well, the prayer begins with the homage to Vajradhara, Dorje Chang, and then talking about the lineage of masters who've handed down those whispered instructions from Tilopa to the current day, the modern day. And Ka Gyu, which is the name of our lineage, Ka and Gyu, they refer to these spoken words, these words of awakening spoken by Buddha Vajradhara to Tilopa all those 1,000 years ago. And so these teachings passed through this lineage of masters, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, and Dusum Kempa, the first Karmapa, and the lineage holders of the elder and younger traditions. And you can advance the slide. And it ends by saying, you who have gained mastery of the profound path of Mahamudra, O Kagyu Gurus, heed my prayer, your lineage I uphold. So, you can go ahead and advance the slide. And so it bless me that I may adopt your ways of liberation. And then in previous classes, the 4 ordinary foundations were taught. Just as revulsion is taught to be the legs of meditation, this meditator does not cling to food or wealth and severs all ties that bind me to this present life. Please bless me to be unattached to honor and gain. So this was these stanzas, and this, by the way, is according to the teaching of the previous Trungpa Rinpoche, who gave a wonderful teaching on this at KTD in the late 90s. He said that those 4 lines are about the 4 thoughts that turn the mind toward Dharma, which establish a foundation upon which we then build our preliminary practice of devotion. So tonight, we are going to start on this next section of 4. Just as devotion is taught to be the head of meditation, continually this meditator supplicates the Guru, who opens the doorway to the trove of pith instructions. Please bless me so that uncontrived devotion may well forth. So that completes the use of the prayer. Thank you. And I'll explain a little bit more. So devotion is the head of meditation, as is taught. Turning to the Guru again and again, one seeks the blessings so that one can attain mastery over Mahamudra themselves. So as you know from previous classes, the 4 parts of what are called the uncommon preliminaries or the extraordinary preliminaries are the function of all of them is to serve as a form of Guru Yoga. And you can see this as those of you who may have already begun or have completed your Nundro practice, you'll see that all 4 parts of the Mahamudra Nundro are a form of Guru Yoga because the Guru is central to all 4 of them. Refuge and Bodhicitta, the central figure is the Buddha Vajradhara, Tilopa's Guru. In the Vajrasattva purification practice, the Guru is Buddha Vajrasattva, the Buddha of purification. In Mandala practice, again, the Guru is visualized in the form of Buddha Vajradhara. And also in the final section of Nundro, the Guru Yoga, he is again visualized as Buddha Vajradhara. And I may have mentioned this to you in the class that I taught about the Mahamudra lineage, supplication and prayer, that that if you've seen pictures of the, let me see if I can find one really quickly for you. Let's see here. The lineage tree that is, let's see here. Here we go. Okay, and then I think I'll be able to share screen here. I believe I did this on a previous class, so this will be a repeat for you. And here we go. So folks who were in my first class would know that that there are 2 images of Vajradhara in the Mahamudra lineage tree. The central figure is Buddha Vajradhara, and Buddha Vajradhara is also here at the head of the tree. And the reason for this, as I mentioned in the previous class, is that that Vajradhara is both the beginning of the lineage. And he was the teacher of Tilopa. But the Buddha Vajradhara is our own guru. Our own guru is our Vajradhara, just as the Buddha Vajradhara who appeared to Tilopa was his master, his Mahamudra master, who pointed out the nature of his mind. So, in such a way, our guru will be the Vajradhara for us. I remember when His Eminence Taisi Rinpoche explained this to us for the first time, it was like a light bulb went off in my mind, because I had often wondered, as many of you may have also, as why Vajradhara appears twice in the tree. Once at the beginning is his place in history, and the time in the middle is that his place in our lives. So our guru will be Vajradhara for us and will point out the nature of our mind. And I remember Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche telling us one time in Three Retreat that yes, you can visualize your guru in their ordinary human form, absolutely, especially if you see your guru as being made of light and insubstantial and shining. But he said in some ways it's better to visualize your guru always as the Buddha Vajradhara, because the Buddha Vajradhara is not a person that you can get attached to, that you can form likes or dislikes about. Whereas a human teacher, of course, we can develop likes and dislikes about a human teacher. But Vajradhara is enlightenment itself. And so visualizing your guru as Vajradhara is very beneficial for you. And he said, and it's also good for the guru. He says, somebody asked him, well, what if your guru is an ordinary person and you visualize them as Vajradhara? He said, that's perfect, he said, because he said, even if your guru is an ordinary being, if you're praying to Vajradhara, Vajradhara will answer your prayers. So in that way, I love to mention the fact that the Buddha Vajradhara is also our guru, visualized at the center of all of our practices in the Nundro practice. I'll come back to this picture in a minute, but before I come back to the picture, I wanted to mention that our goal in presenting the four parts, the four extraordinary foundations of Nundro, is not to teach you how to do the practice, but rather to talk about the place of this practice in our spiritual development and what it brings to us. So I'm going to start by talking about the name of this particular practice, which is called Refuge and Bodhicitta. That is the first of the four extraordinary foundations, Refuge and Bodhicitta. So I remember many years ago, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche was teaching a refuge class, and he said the reason that we take refuge at the beginning of our Buddhist path is because we need to have beings in whom we can place our absolute trust. And he said, many of us start out our lives taking refuge in our families, our families of origin. Sometimes we end up taking refuge in things that are new, like our new families, as we outgrow our old ones or we create new ones. We take refuge in them to help protect us from the suffering of samsara. And sometimes we take refuge in the wrong things, name, fame, money, you name it. We take refuge in many of the wrong things as a means of relieving the suffering we experience in samsara. And of course, the Buddha called it samsara for a reason, because there's a gloss of that word that means ocean. And so it is as though we are living and swimming in an ocean of suffering. And so we desperately need a way to relieve our pain and suffering while we are working on our meditation practices and our Dharma practices in order to transcend samsara. So we need to start with refuge. And so like the other practices of the that we do in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the Nundro begins with refuge. And in whom can we take refuge? Whom can we trust? It starts with what are known as the 6 sources of refuge. There are the 3 sources of refuge we're most familiar with from our earlier studies in Dharma, which is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha is the one who accomplished awakening and therefore is the ultimately trustworthy source of refuge. He actually accomplished Buddhahood, and in so doing, wants nothing more than for us to accomplish it too. So the Buddha gave us the example, but the Buddha is not with us now. So we also have to rely and go for refuge to his teachings, the Dharma. And by going for refuge to his teachings, we can begin to traverse the path of Dharma, just as he did. But we often will need a guide when we are traveling on the road. So if Buddha is the destination and Dharma is the guidebook, well, we may still need a guide and companions on our path. And that is the function of taking refuge in the Sangha, of which there are 2 types. There's the ordinary Sangha, which are who are our companions on the path. But the ultimate Sangha refuge is the enlightened beings who are the enlightened bodhisattvas who have accomplished the first bhumi of awakening and above. They are our guides on the path. So those are the 3 sources of refuge we are most familiar with as Dharma practitioners. But there are 3 additional sources of refuge in the Vajrayana path, and that is the Lama, the Yidam, and the protector. The Lama is called these are called the 3 roots of refuge. So we have the 3 jewels of refuge, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and the 3 roots of refuge, the Lama, the Yidam, and the protector. The Lama is called the root of blessing. And it is through the teachers teaching us that we accomplish the blessing of awakening, but it is through their teaching and their care for us that we advance and begin to free ourselves from the suffering of samsara. So they are the root of all blessing. It is through their instructions that we improve and that we transcend. Next, there are the Yidam. And those of you who know a little bit about Tibetan know that the word Yidam, Y-I-D-A-M in English letters, Yi is mind, and Dam is bond. And so Yidam is the deity that is a bond of our mind. And this describes the function that this Buddha or Bodhisattva plays in our practice. The Yidams are called the source of accomplishment. And they're called this because when we practice their visualization and their mantra and the meditation upon them, we accomplish a Buddhahood. And what I tell people is that the Yidam deity is a Buddha or Bodhisattva that we use as a special, I guess you could call it a special Dharma friend, that we rely upon their example, their life example, and their own awakening as a guide to us to practice on the path. So the closest I can come to talking about what this is to use a Christian example. And the Christian example is the saints. Anybody who is an old Catholic will know that the saints were not considered to be divine, but what they were considered to be was good examples. They were considered good examples of how to live a holy and spiritual life. And so we would use, as Christians, they would use the example of the lives of the saints to show them how to live a spiritual life. For us, meditating upon a Buddha or Bodhisattva as a Yidam or mind-bound deity means that we visualize that Buddha or Bodhisattva, we recite their mantra, and we meditate upon them over and over and over again so that we become as familiar with them as we are with our own face and our own being. And we pray to them continuously as a way of uplifting our view of ourselves and the world. So they serve this function for us to, I guess you could say, to embody Buddha nature and to show us how we can embody Buddha nature. And that's why they're called the root of accomplishment. Let's use Chenrezig as an example. The Bodhisattva Chenrezig, his story is that he vowed to stay behind until the end of samsara to usher and shepherd all sentient beings to Buddhahood. And that is his special gift to us. If we meditate upon his form, we may ourselves feel very ordinary, but the way we practice his meditation is anything but ordinary. We think that he is, at first we think that he is above our head, and we pray to him and ask for his blessing. And after we pray and request his blessing, he shines light upon us, and we visualize that this light purifies all of our obstacles and obscurations. And then, with all of our obstacles and obscurations removed, our Buddha nature shines forth. And the symbol of this is that we visualize ourselves as Chenrezig, having all of his physical attributes and all of his spiritual attributes. And so by meditating in this way, meditating on his form, praying to him, receiving his blessing, for a short period of time, while we recite his mantra, we embody Chenrezig and we embody his Buddha activity of ushering beings to awakening. And what happens at the end of a Yidam practice? At the end of a Yidam practice, everything dissolves into ourselves as the Yidam deity. And then that dissolves into a small seed syllable at our heart. And that syllable itself dissolves into utter emptiness, and we rest there. And resting in emptiness in this way, we actually have a moment of Mahamudra meditation and have the potential to experience our own mind. And so then when thoughts return, we again arise as the Yidam deity, and in that way, we bring the blessings of that deity into everyday life as we imagine ourselves to be the deity as we go about our daily lives. This is why Yidam deities are called the root of all accomplishment. And finally, the protectors, which are bodhisattvas who have a fierce appearance as a way of symbolizing their function. Again, it has to do with function. Protectors are bodhisattvas who have vowed to benefit sentient beings in a fierce form in order to help us to tame our own negative mental afflictions. I tell people that when I pray to the protector Mahakala, I am not asking him to do anything other than to help me tame my own worst impulses. And so this is why the protectors are called the root of all Buddha activity, because we will not be able to accomplish Buddhahood or to have activity like a Buddha unless we have completely and thoroughly tamed and eliminated all of our mental afflictions. So those are the three additional sources of refuge that are mentioned in the Vajrayana. The three jewels of refuge are Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The three roots of refuge are the Lama, the Yidam, and the protector. And so this is who we are taking refuge in the refuge and bodhicitta practice. And I remember Sita Rinpoche told us that the reason that all Buddhist practices start with refuge is because right now we are in samsara and we need to find a way out. And so we take refuge in the enlightened ones to guide and lead us out of samsara. And so when we recite the refuge, the taking of refuge at the beginning of every Buddhist practice, what we're saying, he said, because he teaches in English, he says, we're announcing our purpose and our destination. Destination, Buddhahood. That's how he put it. We're making the statement that this practice I am about to do guide me toward Buddhahood. And in that way, by stating our intention of becoming a Buddha, then that is a blessing for our practice. And it ensures, by stating it at the beginning, it ensures that everything that follows it will help us down and along the path. And so that's the purpose of the refuge being first in the Mahamudra Nundro practice. Second, bodhicitta, the engenderment of bodhicitta. Those of you who studied the Lojong book with us know that that in the Great Path of Awakening, Jamgon Khantrul's the great 19th century Kagyu master Jamgon Khantrul the Great, he said that bodhicitta was the only means of becoming a Buddha. And in fact, I was just reading that to someone this afternoon, and it was kind of a surprise. You mean there are no other ways to get to Buddhahood other than with bodhicitta? And Jamgon Khantrul says very clearly, the only method to attain Buddhahood is that which relies on two forms of meditation. Relative bodhicitta, which is love and compassion, and ultimate bodhicitta, which is an understanding of wisdom and emptiness. And then after that, he says, well, it's hard for us beginners to practice ultimate bodhicitta, but relative bodhicitta, we can train in that. And with the training in relative bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta can be realized naturally. And so he said we need to, Jamgon Khantrul concluded this section by saying, so as beginners, we must train energetically in bodhicitta if we are to accomplish any meaningful results with regard to attaining Buddhahood. So the word bodhi means awakening. Citta means mind. So bodhicitta is the mind of awakening. Right now, as beginners, we have a mind that has been trained by lifetime after lifetime of being somewhat selfish. And so we've trained in that extremely well. And so as a result, we're more used to trying to get our way, and we're more used to not worrying too much if we hurt other people, unless it's important to, unless it's important for some other reason. In other words, we've trained to be selfish individuals for many, many lifetimes. So how we begin to train toward not being like that is by engendering the opposite attitude, which is not exactly easy for us. When people hear the word become selfless, like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, sometimes they worry. They think, well, am I going to not take care of myself? Am I going to somehow be disadvantaged if I try to benefit other beings? But the teachings of bodhicitta show us how helping others is actually helping ourselves. And so it is, you could say it's a bit of a magic formula. By being kind and generous to others, by being patient and ethical with others, by practicing Dharma diligently, meditating well, wisdom is the result. And that is how the six perfect virtues can help us to accomplish the Buddha mind. Bodhicitta can be described as having two aspects, action and aspiration. We start with aspiration, saying, may I attain Buddhahood, not just for myself, but for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so we begin with the bodhicitta of aspiration. In fact, those of you who have a Nundro text, you'll know that in the very opening words, the ninth Karmapa writes at the beginning, he says, you should have an attitude of aspiring bodhicitta as you enter the assembly, where you're going to be doing your Nundro practice together. So the idea of training in bodhicitta is incredibly important. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said, when a person is attempting to do something as profound as Mahamudra practice, one must be doing it for the right reason. That's why we start with refuge and we start with bodhicitta. Refuge means that all of the practice that follows it will be on the path and help us down the path to Buddhahood. And the bodhicitta motivation ensures that we will not be doing it selfishly, and we will be doing it for the purpose of liberating not just ourselves, but others. And so Khenpo Rinpoche said, if you do all of your practice with the bodhisattva motivation to be of benefit to others, he said the practice will go well. And he said, if you don't train in bodhicitta, he said your Vajrayana practice, as powerful and as profound as it is, will probably not be successful. And he said it will not only not be successful, he said it will probably push you in the opposite direction. I remember Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche said some of us will accidentally achieve egohood rather than Buddhahood if we lack the bodhisattva motivation. So that is why refuge and bodhicitta are the initial part of the Ngondro practice. And it has many functions, not just the functions that I've just described. Because if you think about what's going on in the refuge and bodhicitta practice, we have already, at the beginning of the Ngondro text, we talk about the 4 thoughts that turn the mind toward Dharma: the preciousness of our human life, the impermanence, karma, action, cause, and result, and the defects of samsara. Talking about these 4 thoughts helps to give us what I call escape velocity. It gives us some power to overcome the inertia of living in samsara, and helps us to accomplish the first steps of moving toward Buddhahood. And so it begins, our practice begins with the recitation of the 4 thoughts that turn the mind toward Dharma, and then we recite the refuge and bodhicitta section of the practice. And we come to Dharma with a lot of what we might think of as being imperfections. We may feel that we lack compassion. We definitely lack wisdom. And in many cases, we are overwhelmed by mental afflictions and other problems. And so we may feel really imperfect. And we may think, well, how could I ever become a Buddha? Well, the first part of Ngondro is aimed at helping us to overcome our feeling of unworthiness, and helping us to purify the mental afflictions and other obstacles and obscurations that prevent us from seeing our Buddha nature. And so in this way, we create the perfect place to take refuge and the perfect place to engender the bodhisattva mind. And so the Ngondro practice of refuge and bodhicitta begins with a visualized Buddha field. We think that Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, when he talks about this, he says, we imagine that we're in a vast Buddha field with a beautiful green meadow, in the midst of which is a perfectly circular lake of pure water. And in the middle of that is an impossibly big tree. And on that tree are the fruits of the tree, which are enlightened beings. He said the meadow is symbolic of loving kindness, the loving kindness that we have for ourselves and others that we develop. The circular lake is symbolic of compassion. And the tree, that's bodhicitta, he said. And the enlightened beings on that tree, they are the fruits of the tree of bodhicitta, which are as enlightened beings. And so we imagine this beautiful scene with the Guru Vajradhara in the center, just like in the picture. Let me bring that picture back. We'll see this amazing place. There's our Buddha field. There's our beautiful green meadow that's loving kindness. There's our beautiful circular lake, which is symbolic of compassion. There's the tree, symbolic of Bodhicitta. And on the branches of the tree are all the enlightened beings. And so we imagine this amazing assembly of all of the Kaju gurus, all of the Dharma, all of the Yidam deities, all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, and also all the protectors. And we visualize them all as being in front of us. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche told me one time, he said, oh, it's impossible to visualize them all. He said, but try to interact with the space in front of you as though it were filled completely with enlightened beings, and try to generate feelings of love and devotion for all of the awakened ones. And then at the very bottom of the picture, you'll see a small, let's see if I can make it bigger. Yeah, you'll see a small monastic. And you'll see some various beings surrounding them, some of them human, some of them not. And I asked Rinpoche one time, well, who is this little monastic in the center? Who's that? And he said, well, that's you, of course. That's you. You're leading all of these beings, all of these various kinds of beings, your mother, your father, and all beings of all the 6 realms of existence. You're leading them all in taking refuge. I mean, you can see on the shores of the lake, oh my goodness, yes, it looks like we have like some type of predator here bowing. We have the storks bowing. We have the elk bowing, we have the fish bowing. It's really kind of amazing. A little bit of everything there. And so this is what we imagine for the refuge practice. We imagine this. And then I remember Khenpo Rinpoche said that after he chanted, after his retreat master taught them how to do this practice. And he said that the retreat master instructed them, once they have described the entire scene, that they were to stand up as though they were entering the scene that they have thus created, and that they are part of they're part of the picture, they're part of the scene. And so that they are leading all sentient beings in taking refuge. And so that is, and so then if a person has the physical capacity to do so, then they, after they have recited the 6-line refuge prayer out loud, while standing, he said, after that, if a person has the physical capacity, they perform either half or full prostrations in front of this imagined assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And they are reciting the refuge prayer as they bow. And by doing this, he said, this helps them to solidify their refuge, their taking of refuge. And it helps them to, I guess you could say, be in the scene with all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They can actually feel their refuge by bowing and reciting simultaneously. And I said to Rinpoche, well, that's a lot of bowing. And he says, well, yeah, you have to pace yourself. He says, you start with an easy number, like 21, he said, for young people like you. He said, because I was young then, not anymore. But he said you could, at that point, he said you could bow. And he said, do 21. And then every subsequent day, add 1, he said. So slowly, you'll be able to prostrate maybe even 100 times, or maybe longer, maybe more. He said, but always just add 1 at a time. He said, don't worry about it otherwise. So in other words, and I said, but that's a lot of bowing. I said, what am I supposed to think about while I'm bowing? And he said, you have lots of things you can think about. And then he explained. He said, look, he said, it is a very big visualization. He says it's really impossible for a beginner to hold this visualization for the entire time of practice. He said, so for the purposes of this practice, he said, your mind may need to move around within the confines of the practice. He said, for a while, he said, you might think about your guru as Buddha Vajradhara and all the gurus, or you might think about the Vajrayogini and all of the Yidam deities, or you might think about the Buddha Shakyamuni and all the Buddhas, or the Dharma books, which is lovely because in his description, he says the Dharma books are not just made of light, they're speaking. So in any case, it's a lovely, inspiring idea. And you imagine that you're taking refuge in the Chenrezig and all the bodhisattvas and so forth, and Mahakala and all the protectors. By thinking of them, he said, you can think of the different groups at a different time. Or he said, and if you are a little tired of doing that, he said, then you can begin to make aspirations. Making aspirations that by doing this bowing and recitation, that you are purifying all of your negative karma. By offering these the prostrations over and over again, think that by physically moving, through this, that you are actually purifying the negative karma. He said this is really good, especially for purifying the negative karma that has been done by your body. And but he says it'll purify all karma, whatever you think, whatever you think of. You may think of specific things you want to purify. Or he said you might think of specific qualities you want to cultivate, like, I wish I had more love. I wish I had more compassion. Please give me more compassion. Please give me more devotion, and so on. And so in this way, he said your mind can move around inside the confines of the practice. He said you can just be with the sound of the words as you recite, or the movement of your body as you move. He said, just don't do things like trying to solve problems at home or at work. He said, don't go outside the confines of the practice. He said, as long as you're staying within the confines of the practice, he said, you will be fine. And I loved this because it allowed me to make the practice relevant to whatever was going on. In fact, I would go to him and I would say, oh, Rinpoche, I'm having a problem with someone at work, or I'm having a problem, some of this kind or that kind. And he said, well, then ask the refuge to help you with the problem. I said, can I do that? He said, well, sure. He said, you can aim your practice at whatever is bothering you. If you're worried, ask the practice, resolve your worries. If you are afraid, ask the practice to resolve your fear. He said, it's much better if you aim your practice at whatever is on your mind and bothering you at the time. And so that really helped me a great deal to work my way through the Nundra practice when I was doing it. And at the end of each session, you get to take the Bodhisattva vow, also in front of these great enlightened beings. If you are capable physically, you kneel before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the vow-taking posture, and you take the Bodhisattva vow, vowing to from now until enlightenment is reached, to take refuge and to practice and train as the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the past have trained. And after reciting the Bodhisattva vow 3 times in the presence of this huge assembly of enlightened beings, one then is seated and imagines that this entire Buddha field, this entire realm, dissolves into the figures, the religious, the spiritual figures, and that they dissolve into the Buddha Vajradhara that's in front of you, and then that Buddha Vajradhara dissolves through the top of your head and comes to rest in you. And he said, imagine that the guru's mind and your mind mix inseparably, like water being poured into water. And then he said, rest in the confidence that you feel. Rest in the confidence of the unity of your mind and the guru's mind. And then he said, you rest like that for however long it naturally lasts. And then he said, from there, you arise from that meditation and you dedicate your merit. So he said, you turn to the last dedication pages at the end of your Nundro text, and then you would complete the practice. And then he said, you can spend a lot of time when you're not practicing, remembering the qualities of the enlightened ones and taking refuge in them anytime you can. He also said such things like, well, when you get something new given to you, imagine that you first give it to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the sources of refuge, and that they give it back to you for you to use. And he said, if you get a plate of food put in front of you, mentally offer it to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for the benefit of beings, and then take it for your use. And so in this way, he said this Nundro practice, this refuge and bodhicitta practice, purifies negativities, accumulates merit, and is the cause for your very first Guru Yoga meditation on Mahamudra. So because I had a bit of a late start, I just went ahead and talked all the way through the basics of the first practice, the first practice and its function: purifying negativities, accumulating merit, establishing us in refuge, destination Buddhahood, as Sitrun Rinpoche said, and strengthening our bodhisattva motivation, which will make all of our practice successful. So, shoo, that's a lot for me to talk about. So maybe if you have questions or curiosities, you can type them in chat or use the raise hand function on your dashboard, and we'll see if there's any questions.
Nobody entered questions during the discussion, so.
Well, let's take a minute and see. I'm going to queue up a poem to share with everyone at the end. I like to share this.
We have a hand up, Barbara Van.
Okay, very good. Hello. Oh, yeah, you have to unmute. You have to press the unmute
I
button.
thought I did press the unmute, but apparently it didn't take. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your teachings, for one thing. So to begin.
Yes.
So is it conceivable to just do Nundro on your own?
Ooh, tell me a little bit more about that. Do you mean without a guru, or is this for like if a person wants to start the Nundro practice, should they start it on their own? Is that what you're asking?
Maybe. I think I had told you I took refuge with Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche many years ago, several decades ago. So, but I don't really have a teacher. And I was not on the East Coast, so I don't, yeah, I mean, hearing you and having him say, oh, I'm telling you all of these things, I just feel like, oh, I never got that. But anyway, so that's why I'm asking. So it's not like I'm new to Vajrayana. It's not like I'm new to Karma Kagyu, but I have never done Nundro.
Okay. Well, here's what Rinpoche told me, because he said, when somebody wants to start Nundro, and I think I'm actually teaching a whole class on this at the end. So I'll just give, because I think I'm down to, I'm on the list to teach that one. You're like, how do you approach this? How do you study? How do you prepare? But I can answer that fairly simply tonight. And that's because I asked him, I said, well, how do people, how do we get ready for this? And he said, first thing, he said, it's very important for the person to have really studied bodhicitta. And so he encouraged me when I was training people to teach them the 7-point mind training, which is in the book, The Great Path of Awakening by Jamgon Khantrul the Great. And he said, if you teach them that and they learn how to do Tonglen meditation and they learn how to live their life live their life with the slogans, like
The
drive.
Atisha slogans.
Yeah, exactly. Those,
Mhm.
yeah, like drive all blame into one. And if they can learn the methods of meditation associated with that, he said, that is really going to be good because he said, then their Nundro practice is going to go well.
Hmm.
Because he said they will already be established in mind training. And he said, and the mind training is already about transformation, transforming mental afflictions into the path. Okay. And so he said, make sure you do that first. And I said, yes, sir. Then I said, then what? And he said, well, he said they could read one of the translations of the Torch of Certainty or the Torch of True Meaning. He said, now don't have them read the whole book. He said, because if you have them read the whole book, he said, they're going to want to jump ahead and do all the stuff that sounds more interesting to them. Say, don't, and just tell them to do one chapter. Tell them to read the chapter on the 4 ordinary foundations and tell them to read the chapter on refuge and bodhicitta. Tell them don't go any farther in the book. And I said, yes, sir. So that was the second thing he told me. And then he said, after that, he said, they will need several things. Number one, he said, they will need a copy of the Nundro prayer text. And now we have 2, as you know. We have the chariot that draws us along the noble way, which was written by the 9th Karmapa. And we also have, and I think I may not have put it back on the shelf. Yeah, here. Oh, it's over here. Let me grab this. Then we have the Nundro for our current day by the 17th Karmapa. Let's see if I can get that to show up. There we go. The Nundro for our current day by the 17th Karmapa. It's a little shorter. It's a little shorter, a little easier, right? Kempo Rinpoche said his personal preference was for the 9th Karmapa because he said, you do more stuff, you do more chanting, there's a lot more chanting in it. He said, a lot of benefit. He said, but this is okay. He said, this is great, because he said Karmapa it has a lot of blessings, so then you would get the text, but then after you get a text, whichever one of the 2 you get, then you need to talk to a Lama who will give you a Lama who has the transmission of that text, who can read it to you as a blessing.
Wow. Okay.
It's called the lung, which we spell in English Lung, lung.
Right.
And the Tibetan word literally means like breath. And, so you basically read the text to someone, which gives them the permission to read and study the text. And what's cool about this is that if you think about it, these texts have been handed down by reading transmission for centuries. Even this one, which is relatively new, it carries the Karmapa's blessing because it's based on other texts. And so so it has a lot of blessing. That way you have the reading transmission, but then you have to get the practical instructions. And the practical instructions are how exactly to chant, how exactly to bow, how, all of the details of how do you do a session of practice. So and it's great if you can do that by talking with and studying with a teacher. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it's not easy. I won't say it's impossible to do it without a teacher, but if you really want to do it well and do it the proper way, then you would get the book and the prayer text and the reading transmission and the practical instructions, and then set out to do it. Does that answer the question for you?
Pretty much, yes, it does. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Thanks. Let me grab a question out of chat. I appreciate your question, Barbara. I just like, yay. See, this is good because see, these questions are great because they're all about like, how do we actually do this, right? And on lamakathy.net, there's a little article that's called Starting Nundro. And it's like a compilation of that little bit of advice that I just gave you. Okay, it's a little article based on how Rinpoche told me to train people. Okay, so let's go back. Oh, now we got some in chat. Let's see what we've got here. Image file for the refuge tree. Yes, we have to figure out how to do that without breaking all kinds of laws. Well, I'll have to talk to the Dharma Path Central, and find out how we share that. Then thank you. When you say taking refuge as many times after the practice, can you explain a little bit more? Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's not that we recite the prayer, the refuge prayer, when we are not practicing, but it's that we remember that the Buddha is our refuge. Let me give you an example. I have a lot of friends who are in the 12-step tradition of recovery from drug and alcohol abuse and so on. And they call these 12 steps, it's like their framework for recovery. Well, my friends who are in 12-step compare this to being aware of what you're doing all the time. So here's an example. So they talk about, instead of refuge, they talk about having a higher power that will help them be restored to sanity. So sometimes when we are going through our day, we have to make note of when we are taking refuge in something other than the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So, for example, we might be taking refuge in somebody else's opinion of us. Or we may be taking refuge in some trinket of accomplishment, like, oh, I really want this thing. And if I have this thing, then I'm going to be really happy. And I'm going to spend all my energy in getting and buying this thing and having it be part of me and all of that. Or I want this person in my life. And if I get this person in my life, then I'll be happy. And so you're sort of taking refuge in relationships. So there's, we have to remember that these are imperfect in that they can change. And they're impermanent, and sometimes they go away, or sometimes they change in a way that is not good for us. And so, when I'm saying take refuge, when you're not actively engaged in the practice, really in a way that just means you remember them. You remember the Buddha, you remember the Dharma, you remember the Sangha, you just remember them. And for many of us, the way we do that is by making offerings to them when we can. Khenpo Rinpoche made it very easy to make offerings. He said, look, my family had no money. He said they couldn't make fine offerings. He said, but they had the beautiful turquoise sky. And they offered the beautiful sky to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha when they were walking around and doing their daily life. And they had the beautiful sunlight and the beautiful wildflowers, and they could mentally offer those to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha for the benefit of beings. And so this type of offering, and food and so forth. So I hope that's helpful for you, for you, Viviana. It's not like saying that you have to recite the prayer continuously. It's not like that. Although it's very good to recite prayers when you can. Let's see. Oh yeah, Kathleen, thanks a lot. That's a good comment. It feels abundant. Yeah, I do think that taking refuge in the presence of all these beings is kind of like that. Let's see. My refuge practice, may I dedicate my aspiration to helping my loved ones who have passed away attain Buddhahood? Yes, absolutely. You can dedicate merit to, here's the formula that Rinpoche, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche told me to use when dedicating something. He said, first, you say, I dedicate the merit of this practice to all sentient beings without exception. So nobody is left out. And then he said, but particularly for these beings who need my prayers. So it's all beings in general, but especially for these particular beings. Hopefully that will be helpful. You can imagine them with you. Oh yeah, when you the questioner is saying, even imagine them with me by my side when I practice. Absolutely, even if they've passed away. Khenpo Rinpoche said, our parents and our children are the closest to us in karma in this life, with the exception of our guru, of course. But our parents and our children, they benefit automatically from our practice, even if we don't specifically dedicate to them. But it's really great. You can imagine them with you no matter what, because your practice is going to be of benefit to them. And imagining them with you, what a wonderful idea. You know, that's really great. You can do this whether they're living or not. Let's see, share the link. Uh-oh, I don't know the link.
The Chinese question, according to Google, is there a Chinese translation of this book?
Of the Nudra for our current day.
I don't know which book that's referring to.
I'm assuming there is. It would be good to contact Lama Lodro Lamo and see if we can get an answer to that question. Or, you know, I don't know for 100% sure, but I am assuming there is. You know where you could look? If this book is on Dharma ebooks, I don't know if it is, but if it is on the Dharma ebook site.
Dharma ebooks no longer exists.
No, really. My goodness. Well, then I don't know what to say about that. Okay. Well, then we have to wait and see what happens. Hopefully there will be someone somewhere who will be able to assist us. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know about that. Let's see. Richard is asking, I hadn't previously done the preliminary prostrations to suddenly know the prostrations during the Bodhisattva. Oh yeah, I think they will help me feel more established. Also, the idea of moving through the visualization is very helpful. Thank you, Kim. Text. Detailed description of the refuge tree. Yunten, I think that my mind wanting to ascribe accurate details to my own visualization. Should I just let it be? Yeah, I think
I think that in Rinpoche's commentary on Nundro, there is a picture of it with the identification of each being that is in the tree.
Oh, that's wonderful. And where is that again?
Actually, it's in two places now that I think about it. Rinpoche's book, Commentary on the Nundro Practice. I don't remember if that's the exact title, but that's basically the title. It's available from Namsi Bangso bookstore. And the other is the new text that we have. We have the Nundro Practice itself, either in Pecha format or now in book format. And the book format has the tree in it.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. Yay. Okay, great. Oh, wow. Okay, good. And it says, okay. Yeah, that's good. And I think Richard, you're very right to kind of check on yourself, you know, not too tight, not too loose, you know, because if you're too much one way or the other, if you're being overly detailed, then you have to lighten up. And if you're being overly spacey, you have to tighten up. So Dharma is so like it relies on us to balance ourselves out, you know. Oh, and I see Anthony, thank you for putting the link to the Nundra for our current day. Is it important to take the Bodhisattva vow in a ceremony before starting Nundra? I personally was not able to take the Bodhisattva vow before doing Nundra because it was not very available when I started practicing. So what Khenpo Rinpoche told me to tell people was that they should take it as soon as they can. You know, it's okay to start without it, But it's good to start, I mean, to get the vow as soon as you can.
I just realized that my comment about Dharma ebooks was a different website that had Dharma ebooks on it.
I see. Okay, but the Dharma
Yeah,
ebook.
the Dharma ebooks is actually sponsored by the Karmapa, and it's so that doesn't have the problem the other one did.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that. I was a little bit concerned. Okay, wonderful. All right. Let's see. Oh my gosh, we're at the bottom of the hour. It says deeply grateful to have the opportunity. Oh, well, thank you for folks. And I'm super sorry that, we had to start late and everything else. And I hope that I covered the material sufficiently and that this will help. But I do want to do one more thing if it's okay. It'll only take about a minute. I want to share a poem with you that I always share with people who are starting prostrations. Because, we may not understand what devotion is. I mean, devotion, the whole idea of having devotion to a guru is foreign to us, and we may not really understand what it means. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said, look, when your mind is absorbed in devotion and when your mind is absorbed in compassion, either one, he said, no mental affliction can enter it. And so he said, this is why in the Nundro practice, you work on compassion and devotion. Because it helps to protect us from negative extraneous thinking. But the other part of it is that the trust that is born from thinking that our guru dissolves into us and that our mind and the guru's mind become one. The trust that comes from this makes it possible in the future for that teacher to show us the nature of our mind. So either that teacher or another one to show us mind's nature. So I want to share a poem that I wish I could meet this person. I don't know if they're still alive, but this particular poem just means a lot to me. It's called Prostrations. I'll just read it. I acknowledge the errors and set sail with their wind into the beginning of this storm. This practice of my 2 feet of mud and sunshine, and my forehead, which touches earth and floors repeatedly. This practice of my 2 hands, folded leaves and buds in spring, of my stomach, a river, of my backbone, a bridge across chasms. I came to you before asking for blessings and whatever I could carry away, hoping to pay with muscle and brute determination. I came with the colors of desperation. Now my buds are my own. I turn myself into a horse, burning in the sun. I pour myself into my own waters. I bow down for the pleasure of it, overwhelmed to find you enthroned, regardless of our weeping. It is I who come to meet you and come to meet you and come to meet you without expecting affirmation, throwing hope over, grabbing my own rope and climbing it toward your ever lucid presence. Just love that. I can't stop loving that poem. I hope that guy is still living because he's done a lot of good for me and for a lot of people. I do believe he's British because of the way he uses the English language, as well as the term throwing hope over. So I'm guessing he's British.
A quick note, the link that was given for the chariot for traveling the noble path, that book is no longer available at Namsi Bank, so that's why it has the email comment in it. I just put in the link for the sadhana book for anyone that wants to order that.
I'm going to copy that. All right. Okay, well, we have to stop here for tonight. And thank you again for being patient with the delay and with us running over a little bit over time. Next week, then our topic next week is
Q&A.
okay, You're gonna see me again next week. I'm the host for Q&A. Okay. So okay, let's dedicate our merit. Yunten, could you get us started there? Yeah. All right. So we'll dedicate this merit to all beings. May they find a refuge, and may they find teachers and practices that will help them to overcome samsara and to be liberated into Buddhahood. So we'll start with the long life prayer for the Karmapa. O Jiao Kun Nin Che Ranzu Karmapa, Kiao Kun Trin Lei Chi Du Karmapa, Kiao Kun Dun So Puan Kur Karmapa, Or Gendro Du Trin Lei Shap Ten So. Sonam di tam che zipani, tom ne pedranam pam jene, ke ga na chi palap trupai, si pe so le dro an yer dro shok. Jampalpa woji tarken padang, kuntu zampo de yante jinte, de da kunki che su ta lo ching, ge wadi da tam che rap tu ngo. Sanjay kusum ne pejin laptang, chuni min jurden pejin laptang, kendun mi che dun pejin lapki, jitar ngo wa mun lam drupar sho. Du ji le jiao jiao wei trin le pa, karma pa ten ten pei ning po di, cho tar kun chap chap chin chun mi che, ta para pel pel wei tra shi sho. Okay, thanks everyone. Wonderful to see you and looking forward to seeing you next time.